Ethereum too, because I'm excited, as we get towards hopefully this regulatory framework where, and again, I always say, I always get excited about the regulatory, but I understand there's a lot of people out there that are very nervous about it, and rightly so. Our government certainly hasn't been the force of good necessarily that we've wanted them to be. But I think we all agree at this point that we need some sort of regulatory framework so that shadiness like FTX and others don't occur to unsuspecting investors over and over again. So I think the bottom line is I still expect some downside on Ethereum, but there are some levels that I'm watching. So let's take a quick look at the chart here and see what we have. So what we can see is Ethereum on the positive side, it still hasn't taken out the June lows. So just looking at relative strength between Bitcoin and Ethereum, you would actually say Ethereum is stronger than Bitcoin because of that fact. Bitcoin's obviously pierced the the June 2022 lows. We haven't seen that on Ethereum. Having said that, if Bitcoin does continue lower, then you have to think Ethereum eventually will get dragged down. One of the key trend lines I'm watching on Ethereum is this one. Now, look at how perfectly it matches to these highs, this high, and this high. So as long as we stay below that trend line, that's going to be a level that you have to be a little concerned about, that it's going to continue to push Ethereum lower. What I would say to investors is basically you have the low from June at around 885, 890. That's a level to watch. If you break that level, Ethereum has really no major support until it gets down to about $650. Now at $650, I start buying quite a bit of Ethereum. I won't buy everything, but I will start to basically dollar cost average in pretty aggressively down there, with maybe the potential that it could get down to the lower levels around 400 or so. But suffice it to say, I remain long-term extremely bullish on Ethereum. I don't think even being a security really changes much for Ethereum other than that their transparency will have to increase substantially, which I think is a great thing anyways. And so again, I think, yes, you're looking at some more downside, but the end is in sight on the charts. Be buyers at that 885-ish level, because that was where Ethereum bounced from 885 back to 2000. So when you're trading, and basically charts are representations of human emotion, you're going to get a lot of people that are like, oh man, I remember when it bounced from 885 to 2000. I'm getting a chance. I missed it last time. I'm getting a chance to rebuy. So they're going to be buyers there. So you expect some sort of support, or at least a small bounce there. Eventually, if there's enough sellers, it will break that level. And then the next spot would be right around $650 on the chart. I mean, first of all, this just another insult to injury in the whole FTX fiasco. Yes, I think it does, because the question is, again, at some point, does that person just say, hey, I got to get out? And it's all free money to them, right? They hacked it. They didn't really work for it. They didn't spend years accumulating it. So they're not going to be as careful when they dump it. So I think we do have to be aware of that. But for me, it would be a very short-term disruption, right? At some point, yes, you could see one of those big flushes if it did happen and that was the cause. And I think we would all kind of realize that that's probably what's going on. Then we would start, at least I would start nibbling and expecting a snapback. And that could be, honestly, that could be where the low is put in, maybe when that happens. But I certainly hope that the authorities can track down who this was and, hopefully return money to investors that lost. All right, so let me just bring that up here. Let's get that on the chart. I will show you guys the chart here. Let me bring it up. So, all right, first one, you have Bitcoin here, right? So Bitcoin here, and here's your ETH. And again, what's fascinating about this chart is you can see there's a lot of similarities. So you can see when you were at your highs over here and over here, basically double top here. ETH went a little bit higher, obviously, percentage-wise. For me, I look at the relative strength, and I think right now ETH is showing more relative strength. The only thing, again, that concerns me about that would just be what we just discussed in regards to the hacker, and could that kind of throw a wrench in your investment thesis if they were to dump everything like that? And potentially that is a risk that you have to take into account. Again, for me right now, considering that ETH hasn't taken out those lows and Bitcoin has taken out the lows from June, I think you go with the one that's showing relative strength, and that's Ethereum in the near term. So, and in general, Ethereum is a bigger mover, right? Percentage-wise to the upside and the downside. So I understand where that comes from. It's just looking at these charts, what you look for is why hasn't Ethereum broken its June low? And the answer to that is honestly, there hasn't been as many sellers in Ethereum after the merge, after what was going on there. So to me, that's a relative strength signal in the near term. Doesn't necessarily tell us where it'll be in 6 months. I mean, things could change, but at least in the near term, if Bitcoin starts to bounce, Ethereum doesn't have to fight back above that June low. Bitcoin now has to, right? So if we flip back, let me just show you, because this is a really good point that you're making. What I want to do here is I want to hide the Bitcoin or the Ethereum chart just for a second. And what you can basically see is, so you had, this is your June low, right? And basically at this stage, we put a line in there. That pivot low is now resistance for Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin rallies, let's say Bitcoin gets up to this level, it's going to have to fight through that low. Ethereum doesn't have to do that. So if we flip back to Ethereum here, here's your low down here. It doesn't have to fight through that low now. So again, this is more of a short-term kind of swing traders mentality, but at least in the short term, Ethereum would be the one that doesn't have as much resistance on the upside. So I think Ethereum has the aspect of what is the security regulation going to be. We know that, again, basically Bitcoin's the commodity, Ethereum's going to be a security, but I wouldn't get too scared. I truly believe that there's a lot of politicians that are big fans of crypto. They know that a lot of jobs now depend on crypto and the Ethereum network. And so I do think that these new rules, whatever they will be, it will not disintegrate or decimate the crypto markets. And I actually really do believe that that information, that knowledge on the kind of the rules will actually be the next catalyst for the next big bull run. So I think what we have to do is we have to embrace it, but hope that the rules are not an overbearing scenario, but more transparency and rules that they have to follow, these companies and so forth. So Ethereum, I love it long term. Near term, just be a little careful with crypto because we're not quite at the bottom yet. But overall, I love it long term.